Last week, we learned about the greatest commandment that Jesus gives us. Anyone remember what it is? It is in Mark 12:30 to love God with all our hearts, with all our soul, with all our mind, and with all our strength. So today we are going to learn about what is the second greatest commandment. And it is in the next verse, love your neighbor as yourself. So in the Bible, there are many verses that tell us to love your neighbor. What does that mean? That means that we really need to love our neighbor. So who is your neighbor? What do you think? The word neighbor is derived from the word that means near or close by. Who is the closest to you? Who is the nearest to you? We are going to draw some hearts and learn about who is your neighbor. So grab a pen, a marker, and a piece of paper.
So let's draw a heart. Write the word me in it. Now, who is the nearest to you? I would say it's my immediate family. So now draw a second heart and write the word family. Your family is the nearest to you. Who is in your family? Mom? Dad? Do you have any brothers and sisters? Write their names in it. Now draw another heart around the second heart. So write your extended family. Those are your aunties, your uncles, and your cousins. Now draw another heart. Write the word friends. Who are your friends? Do you have friends? Friends here at Sparrows? You have friends at church? Write down their names. Now draw another heart. Write the word neighborhood. A neighbor may be someone in your neighborhood who is living right next door to you. This someone may be somebody you know, or it may be somebody you don't know. Now draw the last heart and write the word city, the state where you live in. You can write California, nation, US, and the word world. So in Jesus' eyes, a neighbor is every human being God created and Jesus died for. It is everyone. A neighbor is someone whom God places in our path. A neighbor is someone who is nearby wherever you are. So this person, a neighbor, may be someone you know or somebody you don't know. A neighbor may be someone you love or someone you may not like.
Let us listen to the story in Luke 10. It is about the parable of the Good Samaritan. So in this story, someone was asking Jesus who is his neighbor. So let's find out. There was once a Jewish man walking along a road from Jerusalem to Jericho, and suddenly robbers attacked him. Oh, they took all his belongings, stripped off his clothes, and beat him. Then they went away, leaving him almost dead. A priest was walking down the same path, and he noticed the man lying on the side of the road. Surely the priest would help the man. What do you think? No, he crossed the road and walked on the other side and pretended he didn't see the dying man. Later, a Levite was walking down the road. Levites were people who helped priests with their work. Surely this Levite will help the man. What do you think? No. He also crossed the road and walked on the other side as if not seeing this dying man. A Samaritan came to the place where this man was. A Samaritan is someone that Jews didn't like. Jews and Samaritans were like enemies. They never got along well. Surely this Samaritan would not help this dying Jewish man. What do you think? When the Samaritan saw the dying man, he felt sorry for him. He had compassion for this man. The Samaritan went to this dying man and he poured olive oil and wine on his wounds and bandaged those wounds. And then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn. An inn is like a hotel to take care of this dying man. And the next day, the Samaritan took out his own money and gave it to the innkeeper, like the person who runs the hotel. And he said, take care of him. When I return, I will pay you back for any extra expenses you may have. So Jesus told this parable to explain the importance of love and who is your neighbor. Everyone you meet is your neighbor, including those who are different from you or those you don't really like. So now the verse, how do we love our neighbor as ourselves? So let's ask Nick.
Well, last week we were looking at kind of the horizontal relationship, us loving God, God loving us. Now we're looking at what does it look like in our relationships? And I love what you said, Joanna, who is my neighbor? It's the one that's nearest to me. So it's always going to be whoever you come into contact with during the day. That's your neighbor. And then it says to love your neighbor as yourself. And that's the little missing key in there is yourself. So it's saying the way you love a neighbor is how you love yourself, which means we can't love our neighbor unless we love ourselves. So my first question is, what does it mean to love ourselves? And the answer to that is to see ourselves the way God sees us. How does God see us? As his child, as valuable, as precious, as cherished. And when we see ourselves that way, we will adopt God's attitude towards ourselves. So you can't have God saying you're cherished, you're valuable, and loving, while you're saying about yourself, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm ugly, I'm this, I'm that. God's positive towards us, which means we have to be positive towards ourselves. Can't have God positive towards us and we are negative about ourselves. So there's the key, how we see ourselves and how we treat ourselves with love, with forgiveness of ourselves, the way God forgives us, with respect for ourselves. When that happens, we are truly able to love our neighbor. As a matter of fact, unless we have God's attitude towards ourselves and adopt it towards ourselves, we cannot possibly love our neighbor. As a matter of fact, if we're negative towards ourselves, we'll be negative towards our neighbor. So that's the way we love our neighbor. You love your neighbor the same way you love yourself, which means I care for their needs. I value them. I find out about them. I know them. And I embrace them. That is loving your neighbor. And it comes out all kinds of practical little ways. It's how you talk to them. It's your tone of voice. It's what you say to them. I just read this morning when I was reading the Bible in the book of Ephesians about let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only talk that builds others up. And there's a lot of things we could say about loving your neighbor, but I'm going to choose that one, just that one. It's one of many, many. But if you want to love your neighbor as yourself, what are you doing and what are you saying to each person you come into contact with that leaves them feeling like I got built up, I got encouraged? And I'll use that word, encouragement. If you could do anything, this would be an amazing deal. I'm saying this to myself as well as everyone here. What would it be like in every interaction I have with someone, phone call, seeing them in person, a text, an email, whatever it might be? What if every single time I was in contact with someone, I did something or said something to encourage them? There's a good goal. That's loving your neighbor as yourself. Amen.
Amen, amen, and amen. Love your message. Thank you, Nick.